Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy humanizing business through engagement, no other than Mr. Anders Boulangers. Welcome, Mr. Anders. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, well, sure. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, really what I'm about, and if you're watching right now, you can see some of the engagement being created in trade show booths. I have a company called Engageify, which I founded, and we are all about, as you said, rehumanizing business through engagement. And we need that engagement because, boy, coming out of the pandemic, I think we kind of forgot to how to interact with each other. And if we want to get a message across, knowledge is cheap these days, but if we want it to land, to be received, to be remembered, we have to engage first. And so everything we do is about creating engaging events or making companies, teams more engaging so that they can, sell and persuade and communicate better.
Indeed, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Anders. And today, let's talk about beyond the lessons from the trade show floor. And of course, tell us the game before the game. What is the single most important strategic shift a company must have to move from we have to be at the show and to we know exactly why we are there and what will we accomplish?
Yeah, I think there's a something we talk about in one of our trainings in one of our talks is called trade show transformation, and it's really about going from something that is just transactional, very shallow. We're just giving away a T-shirt to get a scan. That company may not be qualified. It's just tit for tat kind of thing happening, and then going into something that is more transformational, where people are taking part in some sort of experience that is it has probably an emotional element to it, really. And so what's happening is now people are going to remember it. They're going to connect what they were seeing, what they were feeling, what they were hearing in the moment, and remember your solution, hopefully. So it's going from something that's just very short and transactional to something that is deeper and richer and more profound in the booth. And so we find that companies need to understand three things to get there. One is to get people to stop, and that's where a lot of people just stop thinking right there. All they do is they want someone to stop in the booth. But you got to go further than that. So you have to actually not just make them stop, you actually have to make them want to listen. You need to build connection and have a meaningful interaction with them. And that's really all about the people, in terms of the engaging people in interactions. Only 1% of companies actually train their booth staff with an outside trainer. So it is an area that's lacking. And then just to finish this off, the third piece is, what is that memorable message? What do you want them to remember? And you need to do those three things in that order to create this kind of transformation. You got to give them a reason to stop, what we call an undeniable draw, give them a reason to listen, what we call meaningful interactions. And then the third piece is that memorable message, give them a reason to buy. And if you do that, then you can really transform the way that you exhibit.
If the ultimate goal is not just to collect business cards, what is the more meaningful, measurable objective company should be setting for their trade show preference?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I needed to turn you up there. Sorry, Daniel.
If the ultimate goal is not just to collect business cards, what is the more meaningful, measurable objective company should be setting for their trade show presence?
Right. Well, I mean, if you say business cards is just kind of a raw lead, that is one level. We want to get even a little higher. We want to have a qualified lead, which usually means there has to be a conversation or some sort of interaction to be able to qualify that person out. And at the same time, hopefully they're learning a little bit more about the company, and they can kind of get excited about what, kind of problems they can solve with that solution. So going from just that business card being an MQL, a marketing qualified lead, to a sales qualified lead that is, qualified to have a meeting, spend some time with people. And then we talk about creating engaged leads. So then if you are part of something, and again, if you're watching the video right now, you're seeing some of these interactions, that not only are they understanding what makes you different as a company, but they're actually, their appetite is whet, their curiosity is piqued. And so they want to take a closer look. So that level up from sales qualified leads is something we call engaged leads. And you need to do something special in order to educate them, but also get them motivated to want to take a closer look.
How do you train your booth staff to instantly and authentically answer visitors' unspoken question, what is in for me? Or what
What?
is in this for me?
Yeah, what's in it for me? That's everybody's favorite radio station, isn't it? WIIFM, they say, right? Like that's kind of a classic saying from personal development trainers. Yes, we have to always keep in mind that people will pay attention to content that either benefits them, right? That's good for them, or allows them to avoid pain. It's kind of like the carrot and the stick. We're going to go after the carrot, or we're going to avoid getting hit by the stick, right? So that what's in it for me really is a great way of being a roadmap or a guide for making sure we're talking about what's important for that end user, for that attendee who's come and visit your booth. Okay. With in addition to that, there are some other engagement drivers that we talk about. We use that one saying it's you focused, meaning it's about what you want, right? The other things that we talk about is simplify. We actually have an acronym called SAVE You. And so the U is actually at the end. So we did that one first. But the S is simplify. And that is making sure that you keep things so simple, so easy to follow that people don't detach and disconnect because of cognitive overwhelm, right? That it's just too much to be able to follow, right? So that's one of the things that you want to make sure that everything you do is nice and easy. You use metaphors, similes, alliterations, rhymes, things that make it easier. So SAVE You, for example, is a nice little acronym for these steps. The A that comes after the S is for authority, how you represent yourself. I mean, you've seen in the clip behind me, I'm often dressed in a suit. Just the way that you present yourself, the way you speak about something is going to give you authority, and it makes people want to listen, makes people want to hear what you have to say. Okay, that people are going to be engaged. The V is for varying the senses and making sure we're not just talking about visual people, not just making sounds that auditories would like to hear or giving a feeling, the kinesthetics, but we're mixing the varied, what we call modalities, so that we are appealing to the wide audience, right? So this is another thing that we want to hear about, things that we're connected to, right? That we're linked up to. There's different learning styles. And so that's one way that we can help kind of capture everyone's attention as well. The E, to finish things off, is emotional. And we want to have some emotion so that people remember it. We want to tell stories. We want to do different things to make people stir something inside them so that they actually remember being part of that instead of some boring, trade show that they're used to going, right? How can we disrupt that day and make it a lot more emotional in a good way, in a peak state kind of way? Okay, so simple, authority, vary the senses, emotional, and you focused. And that's how booth staff can really connect with people and maintain that engagement with those booth visitors.
Empowering answer, Mr. Anders. So, what are the critical do's and don'ts for those first 10 seconds of interaction that determine whether a prospect opens up or shut down?
I think the first thing, and if you're talking about those first 10 seconds there, would be the idea that you need to be able to strike at the right timing. because oftentimes people are walking by the booth and here they come. And if you don't strike in that first window of opportunity, they might get past you and they get past this point of no return. So first is you got to know when to engage, when to clutch in and go for it, right? And perhaps you are interrupting their day. You're stopping them. You might be greeting them. You might be asking them a question, which is a great way to get them to open up. And sometimes it's just, saying hi. It's amazing what the very minimal thing of just saying hi and greeting someone can do. People will turn and say something back. They might stop and just be, well, frankly, sometimes shocked that people actually take the time to do that. Okay. So it can open things up. We often talk about sometimes a compliment, as long as it's authentic, is a great way to actually stop someone. Like I've stopped people like where they've got the same leather bag that I own. They carrying around something that my wife likes, some brand of, a book or whatever, or a notebook. I've stopped a man with a large beard one time, and I said, "That's an impressive beard," and it was. We're not being inauthentic, but he's like, "Oh, you think so?" And so it just allowed us to start connecting on a human level, and then you can earn the right to pitch at one point, right? But you want to be able to connect with them, and then they'll look up at your booth, at your signage, and they'll go, "So what do you guys do?" Right? That's the question that you go, okay, now I get to tell you, right? But so often people will become what they call a badge shark, meaning they're looking for those qualified badges and they just want to scan that badge and just get their badge, right? And that just comes off pretty, two-dimensional, right? It's just not really. It feels like you're such a aggressive sales focus that it's not really about the relationship you're trying to create. So that's a way of making those first 10 seconds count, making it a little more, creating a lot more connection, while we try to seek this kind of commonalities and start creating and cultivating this relationship that hopefully might result in some business.
What are the subtle body language cues that separate a tire kicker from a serious buyer? And how should your team's approach differ for each?
Well, I think there's sometimes the people who are just ones coming for the giveaway because you know what? They're carrying 2 or 3 bags full of what? Yeah, other people's giveaways, other companies' giveaways. So sometimes those very transactional visits are very apparent, very easy. Sometimes those people aren't even in the industry. They snuck into the show just to grab some free loot. Um, but in terms of body language, there's something that we call fronting. And fronting is, well, showing the front of your body to someone. And when you are square to someone else, if someone's standing right across from you and your shoulders are square with their shoulders, then both of you are giving your full front to that person. That shows intent. It shows that you are engaged, that you want to pay attention. And you might even see a bit of a lean in, also is an indication of interest. And so if you start getting the opposite of that, you might start getting that hint that this is not what this is not maybe of interest to these people. You might find their shoulders are angling away, they're leaning away. Sometimes their feet are a telltale sign. You'll look down and their feet are pointing away. It's like they're wanting to leave, but they just don't want to be rude yet, right? Um, that might be because you've spent too much time talking with that one prospect potentially. So you have to be always taking that into account and watching for these telltale signs to see if there's a level of interest, if they are sincere, or if they're looking past you over your shoulder. They're not present. They're just looking at what are you giving away back there, right? And that would also be a pretty telltale sign.
Telltale sign indeed. The on the ground reality, yeah, Mr. Anders. What is your best story of a massive opportunity or deal with that come from seemingly random or unexpected interaction on the floor?
What's a good story about a random interaction on the floor? Um, you know what? I'm going to tell you a little story a little bit differently, just because, one of the things that we talk about, and it's not just trade shows, we talk about engagement in general. And I'll just pitch my book here too while I got it, because this just comes out next week.
Yes.
But I wrote this book called Engage First: Capture Attention, Build Trust, and Drive Real Results. And in it, we're talking about how, we don't engage like we used to, right? And it's partly a generational thing, partly technology coming into our lives. And so we also are overwhelmed by all of the ads coming at us, all the people, so we kind of tend not to want to engage. And so, the things I've learned on the trade show floor, that's kind of what has shaped me and shaped and created the content for the book. And I think there's just moments where we need to interact. We need to take the moment and really master that moment and be able to really take advantage of things that are up are put in our laps in a sense. And so the story that I want to talk about is I do magic in my presentations. And that's how I shift people's thinking, how I frame things, how I can create, reactions. And I was at oh, sorry. You know what? I'm sorry about this, Michael. Can we pause?
Yes.
Michael. Michael. I'm on a podcast right now. I should have had that door locked. I'm sorry. It's okay. Sorry about that.
No worries at all. No worries. So continue what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
engagers, what is all
So
about?
I do the magic in the booth and these presentations. The day was done, and I changed and I went and went to another hotel. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
took the tram to another hotel, and I overheard these three people talking about a magician, and automatically my ears, perk up, and I realized they were in one of my second last presentations of the day. They were talking about me, and now I'm wearing something completely different. Not we're a different hotel away in Las Vegas, which is quite a distance when in Vegas. It's like blocks and blocks. And I crept up to the guy and I grabbed him by the shoulder and just gave him a dead eye stare in in the eyes. And he turned around and he looked, and it's like I magically appeared in front of him, right? And the
Mhm.
only way it would have been better is with a puff of smoke. But it was like he mentioned this interaction he had, and then I appeared, and like the three of them went nuts, right? Because it was the best trick I've ever done, really. And so it's just the reason I tell that story is it's just there's these opportunities that you must jump in, you must interact and make it special. And now this, not only am I telling this story, but I'm sure they're telling this story too about this magician who just appeared in front of them, like they mentioned his name, and there he was. So my kind of philosophy is that we need to, before we educate, before we sell, before we persuade, before we do anything, communicate, we have to engage first. And so, take some chances, be bold about what you do, because to get noticed in this world of full of distractions, we have to, play bigger. We have to do things and maybe go out of our comfort zone a little bit. So, for the people listening, that's my challenge, is to, try to engage with people more. Go first. Don't wait for them to come to you, and be bold to master those moments.
Master those moments. And Mr. Anders, as an author and you rehumanizing business through engagement, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
So, sorry, what am I? What? Sorry.
Short-term and long-term goals.
Short term and long term goals. Well, short term, I do want to get this book out into the world, and it is launching next week. And then from that, we're going to probably be doing a lot more keynoting, talking about this idea of engagement, sales kickoffs, and that sort of thing. We're also going to be continuing to help our technology clients doing what we do with trade shows. And longer term, we want to really develop out our Engage 360 platform, which is going to help companies, be able to train their whether it's salespeople, whether it's systems engineers, product managers, whatever it is, on engagement, on presentation skills, and just kind of create this one-stop shop where they can learn how to engage. So that's what we're building out here at Engagify.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Anders, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
um, well, we did talk a little bit about some of those tips and those things. I think one of the things that I would say, and we've trained a great number of people, is that we aren't maybe who we think we are. Like there's more to us. And one of the times that happened, I was training someone, and we were trying to get them to play a little bit bigger, be a little bit different, have a little more modulation in how they speak. Because sometimes people get stuck in certain ways. And I assigned what we call a totem or an avatar. Like I wanted this person to be a kindergarten teacher. And so the kindergarten teacher talks up and down, and it's a little bit more exciting to listen to instead of monotone. And when we were done and we um, debriefed the exercise, this person said, "Wow, I guess I can do that." Like, and everyone was responded to it. They resonated with that more, and they realized that there was more to them than they realized. Right? That they could be other things, and they're not just in this small little area of who they think they are. They can play bigger. They can be more. And so that's what I challenge your listeners to do.
Yes, and thank you for that. Goals, Mr. Anders, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your recommended books for our listeners that
What I
influence your
really
career?
like, I have a couple right here actually beside me. One of them is Creating Your Story Brand by Donald Miller. And that's a marketing book, but it's really about storytelling. It's really about the hero's journey. So I really enjoy that book. Another great book I have, which is very classic business book, is Traction by Gino Wickman, and that's really about running a business through the entrepreneurs operation system, EOS. And those are real solid books for anyone who's in business and in marketing.
Yes, thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Anders. And tell us, your book is all about a engage first. Can you
Yeah.
share a specific example, a brand or individual who pivoted to an engage first model?
Well, you know what? Just recently this week, because I've been on some other podcasts, of course, and I sent and this was a PDF version actually of my book to someone who was going to interview me. They consumed the whole book, and they had all these questions, from the book. Afterwards, after the podcast recording, she reached out to me to say she got a new job, and she said that her interactions with me on the podcast and from reading my book, she felt helped her get the promotion and get this higher paying job. So Engage First isn't just about trade shows or anything like that. It's for everyone out there who wants to, whether it's on the personal development side, career development side of things, be able to just get noticed in the workplace, communicate better, and again, like the book title subtitle says, drive real results.
What is the single most common mistake people make when they are implement this strategy, which is cause them to fail?
You know what? One of the things we talk about, hey, are you able to make me big as far as like, can I
Sure,
have the whole screen? Because you know
sure.
what? I feel a little hemmed in here. And that's one of the things that we talk about in virtual. I'm trying to use my body language, and yet, can I get more? Can I get even more? Like, we can get rid of can put the book down. I could take the whole screen. Yeah. Oh, no. You have the whole screen there. It's one of these buttons, isn't it, Daniel? There we go.
Yes.
All right. Well, here we go. I'll work with what we've got. But the reason I say that is that one of the mistakes people make is I believe that there's this this line that goes across that I call it the boring to annoying poles. And this idea that, on one side, if we go to the far end, boring is very monotone, low energy, this kind of thing, right? And then the annoying, sometimes people feel that they don't want to be over the top. That would be the over the top side. And that would be like, wow, like all crazy and a lot of movement and that sort of thing. What we want to do is find this sweet spot on this boring to annoying scale. And what we find most people do is they think they're at their sweet spot, but it's actually more on the boring side. They need to play bigger than they think. And so when they kind of realize that and they get real-time feedback, whether that's watching video or if you are in front of an audience a lot and you can see them respond, you get a better sense of where that sweet spot is on that boring to annoying scale, and dialing that in for yourself. That finding that right location can create a lot more engagement.
Mr. Anders, before we wrap up our discussion
Yeah.
for today, I'm inviting you to please still listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season, abstract poetry in 2nd season, and my book 101 review in 5th season too. Comedy 101 in 2nd season, and my food 101 in 5th season as well. Geography 101 in 4th season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters in 3rd season, and movie 101 review, music 101 in 4th season, and science 101 and Sex 101 in its 1st season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Anders, if a business is stuck in the old broadcast model, what is the one small actionable step they can take tomorrow to start shifting towards engage first approach?
I'm sorry, Daniel, I couldn't understand your question. Could you say that again?
Yes. If a business is stuck in the old broadcast model, what is the one small actionable step they can take tomorrow to starting shifting towards an engage first approach?
I guess this broadcast model, I'm not too sure what that is, but I think one step that companies can take to engage first is making sure that they are, like we were talking about earlier, tuned into who their audience is, right? And if they are able to customize their message specifically for the person or people in the audience, the audience is obviously going to relate to them more, as opposed to broadcasting out wildly to everyone, trying to make that message work. When you get focused, when you get real, that can really help create the engagement.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Anders. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your debut book?
Yeah, so Engage First comes out October 7th. October 6th, who knows when this posts. So I know this is, I guess we are live, so that's true. We can have access to that right now. There's available for pre-order, and Monday there's a 99-cent deal on Kindle. So if you wanted to get in on that, you can. So yeah, by the way, if there is a website called engage-first.com, you go there, you actually have access to a free presentation training if you buy the book. So valued at $197. So it's a little bonus for all you listeners who check it out.
Yes, please support Mr. Anders, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. Anders, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.